it's Andy Gross from the Law Office of Andrew P. Gross. We do estate planning and personal injury in Maryland and Washington, D.C., and we help veterans across the country with their Veterans Disability Benefits appeals. Today I want to talk about a basic concept in VA disability benefits law, and that is the different theories of service connection. And those are direct, secondary, and presumptive theories of service connection. Now, what's a theory of service connection? Well, think of it as the link between whatever happened in service or your military service in general and your current disability. You might also hear referred to as a nexus. What is the nexus between your military service and your current condition? Now, it's important to note when you submit a claim, you may indicate how you think it's service connected, but the VA actually has a duty to develop all reasonably raised theories of service connection from the evidence in the records. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But let's start off with the easiest one. That's direct service connection. Direct service connection is simple. Something happened in service, and you now have a disability, and there's a direct link between the two. The example might be, well, I broke my ankle while on active duty. I broke my right ankle. Let's be more specific. I broke my right ankle while on active duty, and now I have arthritis in my right ankle. Well, there is a direct connection between those two because the medical records show that I broke my ankle and now I have arthritis. Simple as that. A little more complicated example might be there's proof in the medical records from my time in service that I was exposed to asbestos and I now have lung cancer or mesothelioma. That is direct service connection. There's a direct link between something that occurred in service and my current disability. Now, secondary service connection gets a little bit more complicated and it usually requires a medical doctor to explain the link between the two. And this requires first that you have a primarily direct service connection disability. So let's go back to the knee example, or rather the ankle example. I broke my right ankle while on active duty. I now have ankle arthritis, but now my knee is starting to bother me. And there's no evidence of any kind of knee problem while on active duty. But because my ankle doesn't move right, it kind of throws off my movement and compensation occurs, and now I've given myself arthritis of the knee. Well, an orthopedic doctor can connect the two and say, listen, you threw off the movement in your knee, caused arthritis because your ankle was broken in the first place. This might be secondary service connection. Another very common thing that comes up is folks who develop sleep apnea and have PTSD. There's a growing body of evidence out there that shows that sleep apnea can be caused by PTSD. But it can get even more complicated than that because you can actually sometimes link your current condition with your service-connected condition through a third condition that is not service-connected or non-compensable. Let's take obesity, for example. You cannot get VA disability for obesity. But let's say you have some sort of condition that is service connected and you have to take medication for it, and that medication causes weight gain, right? And you now are overweight. If you're overweight and you develop sleep apnea, that sleep apnea may be service connected because it was caused by your weight gain, which was caused by the medication you took for your service connected condition. Again, it gets complicated, but it's possible to link the two. The third theory of service connection is both incredibly complicated and pretty simple. And what I mean by that is it's pretty simple because the VA tells us the conditions that are presumptively linked to something that occurred in service. For instance, the VA has a list of conditions that are presumptively linked to Agent Orange exposure. Now, if you recall, Agent Orange was a very toxic chemical that was widely used in Vietnam, and we now know causes all kinds of awful conditions like diabetes, ischemic heart disease, hypertension, Parkinson's, and so on. If you have one of these conditions and you served in Vietnam while Agent Orange was being used, that condition is presumptively linked to Agent Orange or your Vietnam service experience. Now, new conditions get added every day, and even if the condition's not on the list, there may be medical science that says that they should be, and that can even give way to a direct theory of service connection if it's not on the presumptive list. Now, it's important to note, stuff gets added to the presumptive list all the time. It was only fairly recently that Parkinsonism was added to the Agent Orange presumptive list, and sinusitis and rhinitis were added to the burn pit exposure list. So, for instance, if you served in Iraq or Afghanistan and you develop certain conditions such as rhinitis or sinusitis, those are presumptively linked to that service and burn pit exposure. Again, I would not be surprised if over time we see many, many more conditions added to each of these lists as the science develops and as more and more evidence comes out that the incredibly toxic chemicals that were caused by these burn pits, we learn that more and more cancers and other types of conditions are caused by them. So a common mistake I see from veterans is they get too wrapped around the axle about the theory of service connection. Apply for it and write down the theories you think are connected. The VA is supposed to look at the entire record, all of the evidence in the record, and make that determination which theory of service connection makes sense in this case. So here's an example, right? Going back to my right ankle. My right ankle is broken. I now have arthritis in my right ankle. Well, there's also evidence in my record that my right knee started hurting while I was in service, and now I'm applying for service-connected disability for my right knee. Now, the VA might say, well, there's no primary connection. And that may be wrong or right, doesn't really matter. But the VA also needs to look at, is there a secondary theory of service connection? They fail to do this all the time. It's important, though, you do not have to reapply for each new theory of service connection. Once you've applied for a particular disability, the VA has to come up with that service connection based on the evidence in the file. So if the VA denies you because they didn't look at a specific service connection theory, then it might be able to fix that through appealing by submitting additional evidence. And that might be medical journals or a nexus letter from a doctor who believes that your service-connected condition caused your secondary condition, things like that. And the way we figure out what it takes to appeal this is by taking a deep dive into the claims file itself. But my point is that you don't have to reapply based on another service connection, or you don't have to worry about applying for the right theory of service connection because the VA is supposed to look at the file and come up with the theories of service connection. Now, the other thing is too, you really got to keep an eye on what's presumptive and what's added presumptive list. For years, Parkinsonisms were not on the Agent Orange presumptive list. It was only in 2021 that they were added. So thousands, maybe tens of thousands of veterans may now be eligible for a very easy call at the VA to direct connect, or rather presumptively connect their Parkinsonism to their Agent Orange exposure. So keep an eye on this list. Now, if you've been denied service connection or your ratings are too low or you don't believe that the VA explored all reasonably raised theories of service connection, give us a call, click the link either in the YouTube video or go to www.apgrosslaw.com. Reach out to us and let's see how we can help you get the VA disability benefits that you're entitled to.